But first, we're going to start with the big breaking news from literally the last few minutes. UEFA have ordered England to play their next UEFA competition game behind closed doors. That's following the disorder at Wembley at the Euro 2020 final. As you can see, our reporter Kaveh Solokal is here next to me to speak more about this, Kaveh. And it's not quite as simple as a one-game stadium ban, is it?
No, look, as things stand, England's next European game at Wembley Stadium will be behind closed doors. Now, I think that game is going to be a Nations League game in June next year. There is also the possibility that a second game will have to be held behind closed doors, depending on how England supporters behave from today going forward 2 years' time. So in the next 2 years, if there are any more problems at European games with England fans, UEFA have the option of saying, fine, one more game at Wembley will have to be held behind closed doors. Now, a lot of people will be thinking, this is quite a lenient punishment. We've been reporting in the last 24 hours that we were expecting England to get at least a one-game ban. But a lot of supporters, journalists who were at that game will be thinking the FA and England have got off quite lightly, because the kind of scenes we saw at Wembley that day, we are not used to seeing at major finals. I've been to lots of major finals, both international ones and also club finals, and I've not seen that kind of disorder and lawlessness. I've not seen a situation where so many thousands of fans without tickets have been able to force their way into a stadium. I know there are problems with the layout of Wembley Stadium, for instance. At other stadiums, the police are able to set up a security cordon around the ground to stop anybody without tickets getting anywhere near the stadium. That is simply impossible at Wembley Stadium now, because so many shops, restaurants, apartments, bars have been built so close to the ground that it is physically impossible to have that kind of security cordon. And there were problems on the day. It was obvious hours and hours before kickoff that something was terribly wrong. For instance, people arriving at Wembley Stadium, people who had tickets were arriving there 5-6 hours before kickoff and were finding it almost impossible to reach the stadium because so many fans without tickets had arrived. And also, I think one of the issues was fans without tickets knew that there were 30,000 empty seats in the stadium that day because of COVID restrictions. The capacity is normally 90,000. For that final, the capacity was 60,000. So these fans, they were messaging each other on social media and they were saying, look, there's 30,000 empty seats. The security cordons are very, very close to the stadium. Let's see if we can force our way in. And unfortunately, thousands of them managed to do that. Now, that is one part of the story, that the FA have been given this punishment. That is for the behaviour of the fans inside and outside the stadium. Also, there is a separate punishment, which is a fine of €100,000, which I think is about probably £90,000. And that is for the other charges that the FA faced. And there were 4 charges, which was disturbances during the national anthems, invasion of the pitch, throwing of objects onto the pitch, and also the lighting of a firework. So UEFA's disciplinary body has been meeting today. Their investigators have been looking into this, and this is the punishment that they've come up with. I think privately, quite a lot of people at the FA will be thinking, we got off quite leniently when you take into account what actually happened during that day.
I'll tell you what they've said publicly then, Kaveh, because a statement has literally just dropped on their Twitter page. It says this: although we are disappointed with the verdict, we acknowledge the outcome of this UEFA decision. We condemn the terrible behaviour of the individuals who caused the disgraceful scenes in and around Wembley Stadium at the Euro 2020 final, and we deeply regret that some of them were able to enter the stadium. There's a second page as well. It says, we are determined that this can never be repeated, so we have commissioned an independent review led by Baroness Casey to report on the circumstances involved. It goes on to say, we continue to work with the relevant authorities in support of their efforts to take action against those responsible and hold them to account. What do you make of that?
Look, what the FA have to sort out is a ring of steel around Wembley Stadium. The security operation for this final was totally ineffective. There weren't enough police officers there. The stewards who were there could not cope with how many people arrived and tried to get in that game. I will just compare and contrast what happened at this particular final with what happens at other finals. At other finals, you've got police officers, you've got the army on the streets, you've got riot police with guns and batons stopping supporters without tickets getting anywhere near the ground. We didn't see any of that at Wembley. I'm not saying, by the way, that we should have the army on the streets every time England play at Wembley. I'm just saying when there is such a high-profile occasion, you cannot have a situation where fans can drink all day, reports of supporters openly taking drugs on Olympic Way. It was a scene of something that people had not seen at a football game. That many people, and a lot of supporters with tickets, were scared. They felt very, very uncomfortable. Quite a few actually turned up at Wembley and saw what was going on and turned round and went straight back home and watched the game on television. So I think lessons definitely have to be learned. We always say this. People in authority always say, yes, we will look at the report, lessons need to be learned. But if the FA, if Wembley is ever to host another major final like this, then there is no way we can have the scenes that we had on Sunday, 11th of July. And also, of course, we know that the FA are considering bidding to host the World Cup finals in 2030 jointly with Ireland. And I just wonder what some people at FIFA are thinking about. A lot of those people would have been invited to the Euro final as well. And I'm sure quite a few of them will have been shocked by what they saw.
Absolutely. OK, Kaveh, thank you very much for now.